Monday, writers. I hope everybody's check-in and reflections are going beautifully. Hey, Ted, how are we doing?
Good. I'm going to keep us in the bucket of reflection.
Oh, good. Okay, so tell us then.
Oh,
So we've had like 3 weeks of checking in, reflecting. We're seeing during the work, seeing if we're doing the work. How do you want to round this out? What else should people be doing right now in this work?
yeah. I want you said it last week, and we'll continuously say this, but I want people to go inward again and stay in a state of reflection. And I want to frame it up very specifically today about our behaviors, right? About, we're talking about values, we're talking about goals, we're talking about all these different things, the weight of the world. Unfortunately, when there's a weight of the world and things are moving at lightning speed, there's certain behaviors that come in that aren't serving us well. And we're not always very conscious of them. And so coming into this week, I was thinking about this concept of self-defeating behaviors, right? And this came from a guy named Boothroyd, which probably nobody's ever heard of, but I was lucky enough to spend 3 or 4 days with this man in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 21, 22 years ago. And he introduced me to this concept of self-defeating behaviors, which back then blew my mind, and it was very meaningful to me, but also the work that I do. And I'd love to frame it up for people as another point of reflection. And so what he said is sometimes in times of chaos or in times of, and by the way, it doesn't take chaos. I think we live life oftentimes in these self-defeating behaviors, exhibiting and living these self-defeating behaviors out. But as I was thinking about our past 3 weeks of conversation, I would say that in many instances, because of everything that's going on, people have doubled down on self-defeating behaviors. And so in that light, one of the things I've said it on many, many calls, across the country in the past months, that divorce is up, alcoholism was up, domestic abuse is up, people are quitting jobs. Like there's depression is up, anxiety is up. There's all these things that are up. And I'll take the alcoholism as the example to articulate this self-defeating behavior. But you come across a hard time, full transparency. I drank more when I lost my dad 22 years ago. When you come across a hard time, some people lean into something like alcohol, and they lean in because they think it's going to nullify them or keep those ill feelings away. And so by very definition, self-defeating behaviors is a behavior that you think is protecting you, but is actually prohibiting you from living your best life. So you think about the alcoholic that thinks they're drinking to protect them, and yet they keep on drinking, and then all of a sudden their spouse leaves them because of their drinking. Well, their spouse leaves them, so they're in more pain. What do? They double down and they start drinking more. And then the next thing happens, more pain, and all of a sudden they are a full-blown alcoholic. Every one of us, Jade, in my opinion, and I surely have them, right? But I'm always not aware of them, or I'm just moving at lightning speed that we've talked about. And I haven't slowed down enough to go, okay, what rhythms do I have right now that are actually self-defeating behaviors that I think are protecting me, that are actually playing against me, whether it be at home or in business or starting a writing career, whatever it may be. And a point of reflection would be, what self-defeating behavior do you have right now? And it could be emotional or it could be physical. I talk about the alcohol because it's easy to articulate it like that, but take the introvert, which we've talked about in the past, that is self-proclaimed introvert, and an introvert could easily fall into, from a business standpoint, I'm not going to reach out to people. I don't like socializing with people and blah, 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 blah. And what they do is, I feel awkward talking to people. So what do they do to protect themselves? They don't talk to people. Well, that plays against them on various ways. People are looking at the recluse in the corner going, what's wrong with that girl over there? Like, she hasn't talked to anybody all night, and she's just sitting over there sipping on her drink or whatever. Or it prohibits you from reaching out to a potential client. It's too awkward. Self-defeating behavior. And so we have to reflect on what behaviors are we, meaning you and me, are we exhibiting or playing out every day that we haven't slowed down and reflected upon, and we need to switch them up. And it's just a very dynamic thing. And I remember learning about it because this idea that we think it's protecting us, but it's actually playing against us, is fascinating to me.
I would also, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Ted, or don't like it, but I also feel like I would also take self-defeating and ask yourself, what self-defeating language are you using when you talk to yourself? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's like a big one, right? Like how do you talk to yourself? How do you view yourself? How do you talk to yourself? What is going on up here? Like when you think of your actions, because I think that is a big one for a lot of people. Like they don't talk to themselves like they're their best friend, and
Yep.
I think it's so damaging, and it stops you from doing so much, because before you even take that action, we've talked about this before, right? Before you even take that action, you're telling yourself that you can't, that it's going to fail, that it's going to be bad, all the things that you keep saying, right? So it's like, how can you like reflect and reframe that language to benefit yourself, so you're not defeating yourself,
Yeah, the very essence of self-defeating behaviors is things that you do that are protecting yourself, but they're actually defeating you. And so when to pile on what you're saying, to put it in a context on a self-defeating behaviors, this idea that we may tell ourselves like, I'm not gonna reach that goal.
Mm-hmm.
What are we really doing when we say that? For some people, they're saying that because they're afraid that they're not going to hit it. But to your point, that language is keeping them in handcuffs from activity and the rest of it. So again, they're saying that. How have you like kind of like you're dimming down your own expectations because you're afraid, like if you don't hit them, it won't hurt as much.
Yeah.
We all do it to some degree.
Yeah.
Well, that's a self-defeating behavior. To your point, using language to protect ourselves from something. But what we don't realize is the ramifications of using that language is keeping us in handcuffs from actually acting towards something or going full on into achieving a certain goal.
Yeah.
So it's spot on.
It plays into when you were talking about the four emotions as well, because I would almost believe that, that you're not leaning into those things, you know what I mean? Like with the fear and the sadness, and that when you're not feeling those things, what happens when you don't do that? And then how is that again, like damaging, right? How is it, when you think it's protecting you by not feeling them, how is it actually damaging you, right? It all comes, like you said, a ball of wax. But I just think of earwax every time you say that, but it all
is though. It's all interconnected. Yeah, and this is, I could argue that this is deeper into the pool stuff. Like you got to slow down and really think about this. Like you got to, we talked about the emotional intelligence and all that, but like you really have to give some thought into like how you're operating on a daily basis. And really, if you just think about that, we're all doing certain things that we think are protecting us that are really holding us back from living the most fulfilled and prosperous life. It's true.
And it's, I know we talked about that there's a lot of hardship and a lot of hard times, but the truth of something is that it's so miraculous to be alive, right? It's so miraculous to be alive and to be human. Like how much it takes for your body to just take a breath, right? And now you want to dim that and you want to dull down that miracle of being alive. Like, no, don't do that, right? Like be amazing, shoot for the stars. And even if you don't hit your goals, sometimes it's so amazing what will happen because you took action towards something, right? So I that would be my message or my homework for everyone today. Like, yes, there's a lot of stuff that is really difficult right now. All the stuff that Ted and I are talking about can be very heavy and cumbersome and hard work, all those things. But look for the beauty, like look for the happiness, the amazing, like the wow, like, oh my gosh, I'm breathing, the trees are, it's blossoming, and all these things. Like there's a lot of good out there too. So if we can.
There is. Well, I will say, I hope people aren't hearing that we're not expressing that there's good in the world. I think the message here is that we have to be careful. Yeah, we have to experience all of it. I guess and it's really important that we experience all of it. As mentioned, like we can nullify the happy, we can nullify the sad. You can't nullify any of this. This is a twisted journey, this entrepreneurial journey, this entrepreneurial journey of starting a writing career. It's big, right? It's big, and be able to sustain it.
Yeah, agree. Well, again, like we said before, tell us how we can help you while you're on that journey, because you are not alone. It's not just Ted and I as well. There is an amazing AWAI community. But Ted, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Bye, everybody.